America. And here we go. So today we're very excited to be working with Olympic National Park. We visited Olympic National Park back in September. We had known Ranger Dean for a couple of years and finally got to visit, and I'm actually sporting my Hurricane Ridge Olympic National Park shirt today. This is the National Parks Adventure in collaboration with the National Park Foundation, and we're so happy that they have found value in us and have decided to support us financially with this endeavor to travel around the country and to bring more national parks into your classrooms. We are also happy that we've been working on another initiative with them called Crossing America Live. This year we'll be in 14 schools across the country, presenting a free day of STEAM in the national parks. We encourage you to apply for this for next year. We're taking applications now. And Ms. Chavez, I am pretty confident we're going to be coming to your school, hopefully in September or October. So we will make sure that happens so that we can see you guys also. This is year 2 of Crossing America. In the last 2 years so far, we've reached over 400,000 students with the Crossing America Adventure. This year, since November, we've already hit 203,000. So thank you so much for your support. We're excited to be with you on this journey. So today we're going to ask that you have a notebook or a piece of paper ready so we can do some drawings. And we're excited that we're going to learn a lot today. So let's go ahead and start learning together with where the national park is. If you are some of my social media teachers who are tweeting out, make sure you use our handles. They're on the screen right now. And don't forget to tag Olympic National Park. But let's look on our map and let's see where this is. So if you look at our map here, and if you have the map on your table, you can go ahead and color in or label Washington State. So we're going to go up into the farthest corner of their map, and we're going to be doing Washington State. And that's where we have several national parks. We have Mount Rainier, we have North Cascades, and then we have one of our favorites, and that's Olympic. So make sure that you're adding that to your notebook so we can see where we have been over the last couple years. Today, we're going to be talking about the science that's happening in Olympic, and we're going to meet Ranger Dean. So Ranger Dean, I hope you're ready because we're getting ready to bring you up on the camera right now so you can meet all of our kids. So come on, Ranger Dean.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for inviting me, Dr. Drizzle. It's always so fun to participate in your adventures. And I'm really excited to talk about Olympic National Park with all of the students today and to share a little bit about what makes this place such a special area. I do have some images and things that I'd like to share if that works.
It does.
Great. So let me go ahead and bring this up.
That looks good. We see it.
All right. All right. So Olympic National Park. We can talk about Olympic National Park in a lot of different ways to try and understand it. It's a really big place. It's really diverse. By that, I mean there's lots of different kinds of plants and animals and forests and weather. And so trying to understand this national park, we maybe break it down a little bit. And so one way we can break it down is by ecosystem. So we can talk about the national park as an ecosystem. Here's a little closer picture of Olympic National Park for everybody to see. It's the dark green area on this map. So if you see this dark green area, sometimes people like to say that it looks like a pig. So you might be able to see that it looks a little bit like a pig. I don't think this is, I'm sharing the right screen. Hold on a second, let me try again.
Yeah, it looked good. I think you just need to go to presenter view or full screen or.
Is that looking any
There you
better?
go. That looks
Great.
great.
All right. So hopefully you can see on my screen here, you can see that dark green outline. And some people say it kind of looks like a pig, like this main part of the park looks like a pig. Can you see like the snout right here and the little pig ear up here by Lake Crescent and some piggy legs? And it's chasing this strip of bacon, which is the green strip right here along the coast. So Olympic National Park is on the Olympic Peninsula. It's surrounded by water on 3 sides, the Pacific Ocean, the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and the Hood Canal. You can also think of making sense of Olympic National Park by dividing the park up into watersheds. And so this is kind of a busy slide. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but these lines, these little black lines, these divide the watersheds. And now when we say watershed, well, what does that mean? A watershed is an area where the all of the rain or the snow, the precipitation flows through that area and out to a larger body of water. So we have the Elwha watershed. So I'm tracing the line of the Elwha watershed. Any precipitation that falls within there, it's like a raindrop or a snowflake, it'll melt, it'll eventually go down into the Elwha River and flow down. And then over here you can see we have the Hoh watershed. So the same thing, if a raindrop or snow goes in here, it'll flow out to the Pacific Ocean. So we've got 12 major watersheds at Olympic National Park. So that's another way to think of the national park, to try and make sense of it. We could also divide the park up by those ecosystems that I was talking about, mountains, forests, and coasts. So those are the 3 major ecosystems that we have in the park. And so what is an ecosystem? So this is where I love students because they come up with the funniest things. If you look over here, this student identified rock as both a biotic and an abiotic factor. So biotic means living. So Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is a living person, so he is biotic, and a rock is not living, so it's abiotic. And an ecosystem is a place where living things, or those biotic things, interact with the physical environment or the abiotic things. And so to remember this, I use a little hand system. Can everybody hold their hands up for me? Can you see me on the screen? Am I there? Everybody hold your hands up and wiggle your fingers. Your wiggling fingers, that represents the biotic, the living things. They move around and they grow and they're alive. And then everybody make fists. Okay, everybody has fists and they're still, right? They're not moving around. That represents the abiotic or non-living things. Now I want you to keep one hand as a fist, and one hand, I want you to wiggle those fingers, wiggle them around, and then put them together and see how they interact with one another. And so that's our ecosystem, where living things, the biotic and the abiotic things, interact. So changes in ecosystems have big effects, and our ecosystems are all connected, right? And so I want to talk a little bit about the mountains, and we're going to focus a little bit on fish today, because I think that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about a little bit later. And what's really important for fish is that, especially for salmon, is that they have water. And so a lot of our water comes in the form of snow that melts in the summer and then piles up in the winter. And as long as that snow keeps piling up, we're pretty good. So we spend a lot of time studying the snow and looking at glaciers in the national park. A glacier forms when more snow falls in the falls in the winter time and piles up, then will melt in the summer. And so over years and years and years, all that excess snow pushes down on one another, layer after layer after layer of snow, and changes that snow to ice. And that's our glaciers. We're actually, unfortunately, losing some of our glaciers in Olympic National Park. This picture is of the Lillian Glacier. Do you see those red arrows right there? Those are pointing to different places on the land. And then someone's written on this picture right here. So you can kind of see that they've written on the photograph right here. But this is pointing to a ridge, and this arrow is pointing to a ridge. This picture was taken in 1905. In 2010, we went to the same spot at a similar time of the year, and we took another picture of where the Lillian Glacier was. Those arrows are pointing to the same spot on the landscape in the two pictures, and you can see that Lillian Glacier is almost all gone. So that's one of the things that's going to be affecting our ecosystems in the park. So here's a question to think about. We're not going to spend any time. We don't have the time to really get some answers on this, but I just want you to think about what happens when glaciers melt. What does this mean for the park's ecosystems? So if there's no more glaciers, what happens? We'll go down to the forest now, and the thing that connects our watersheds are these rivers. So they start with the melting snow up in the mountains, and they flow through the forests. And so we have 12 major watersheds in Olympic National Park, with lots of different fish that swim in these rivers and use these rivers as a part of their life. And so we have scientists in the park that study rivers. These scientists this is an electrofisher. The backpack here is a battery. The wand goes in the water and it delivers a little electrical shock that kind of shocks the fish. They stop swimming, and so then they float up to the top, and the scientists collect them and they can study them. It doesn't kill the fish, it just stuns them for a little bit. They do what they need to do their studies, and then they return the fish to the river. Our scientists also swim through the rivers in snorkel gear and count the fish and look at the condition of the river to see if it's a good place for fish. I talked about all of these different fish. The salmon are the fish that we've been focusing a lot of effort on, and in the park we have all 5 Pacific salmon species. So to remember those Pacific salmon species, I'm going to have you hold up your hands again. Everybody hold up your hand. Let me see those hands. All right, so on our thumb, we think of the chum salmon. It rhymes, thumb and chum. Okay, then we're going to take our pointer finger. And if you're not careful and you're pointing around, you could sock somebody's eye. So we're going to say sock eye with our pointer finger. And then our middle finger is the tallest finger. We could consider that to be the king salmon or the Chinook salmon. And then on our ring finger, that's where we put rings. We wear rings. If some of us are wearing rings, and some of our rings are made out of silver. So that's our silver salmon, or also known as coho salmon. And then our pinky salmon represents the pink salmon. So those are all the 5 different species that we have in the park. And salmon have a unique life history. They start as eggs in the streams, in the rivers, in the fresh water. So the adult salmon comes back, lays its eggs, and then that's the end of the adult salmon's life cycle, right? And then the eggs hatch out, and then they swim out to the ocean. They get big out in the ocean, and then they return and they spawn and they start that whole life cycle over again. So those salmon are really important to our ecosystem because a lot of different animals eat salmon. or scavenge on the dead salmon or eat the live salmon. So lots of different animals are eating them. Those rivers eventually flow out to our coast and to our oceans. And that's where salmon spend a lot of their time. And so I want to talk a little bit about some connections out in the ocean that maybe you don't think affect salmon, but we'll see if they do. So this little creature lives out in the ocean in the intertidal community. It's called a sea urchin. It's got really spiky body and it eats algae. This like kelp and seaweed. That's what I mean when I say algae. And then sea otters eat they eat them, those urchins, the otters eat the urchins eat the kelp. So otters eat urchins eat kelp, and the kelp is a really important place out in the ocean, especially for little tiny fish. It's a place where they can find protection against predators, protection against big waves. And so what do you think would happen if all of the sea otters disappeared? And that actually did happen off of the Washington coast. People valued the otter fur so much that they hunted and trapped all of the otters so that they disappeared off of the Washington coast. The otters were returned in a restoration project in the 1960s. They returned some otters from Alaska off the Washington coast. And until about the middle of 1980s, the population was pretty low. And then all of a sudden the population started to go up. And so now we have a big, healthy population of sea otters out on the coast. And so with otters, we have not as many urchins, and so we have more kelp, which is really important for the salmon. So ecosystem, remember about our ecosystem being a place where living things interact with the physical environment. So let's go ahead and try to remember our living things are also known as biotic things. So go ahead and wiggle that hand, those fingers on one hand, and they interact with the non-living things or the abiotic things. So go ahead and interact them together so we remember our ecosystems. And all of our ecosystems are interconnected through those watersheds, and changes in these ecosystems can have big effects. So changes in snowfall and glaciers can affect the rivers, and changes in the otter population can affect the urchins, which can affect the kelp where our salmon spend part of their life. And so these changes can all affect across the ecosystem. And I just want to remind you that ecosystems aren't only in national parks, they're everywhere. The earth is one big ecosystem. So we could think of the earth as an ecosystem. The place where you live is also an ecosystem. And we make choices every day, so we can choose how we want to interact with the world around us, and we can make choices that are sustainable and help to protect the place where all of these living creatures live together. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen if I can figure out where to fit there. All right, so Miss Drizzle, I think that's all that I have. I hopefully didn't take too long.
No, you're great. That is excellent. I love all of those things. So we have something weird happening on our screen right now. I'm not sure
I
what
kind of
that
see
is.
that right there. Do you want me to?
Can you stop sharing or make sure you've stopped sharing?
I did stop sharing. Let me see. I will share again and I will stop sharing again. Did that work?
That did. So we'll fix it on our side now. So thank you so much for that. Don't go anywhere because our kids are going to share. Before we do though, kids, I want to do something creative as we just learned some things, I want us to, on our piece of paper, to build a little cloud. We're going to call this a word cloud. So if you will draw this on your paper right now, and thinking about what Ranger Dean shared with us with biotic and abiotic and ecosystems, I want us to create some words that we thought of. So to help you a little bit with that, we're going to show a quick video that has no sound, or it may have a little bit of sound, but we just want you to look at what you see. And every time a word pops into your head, we want you to add it into your word cloud. So let's do that now. Words that are just adjectives that are describing what you see. They can be actual pieces of nature. They can be feelings. But these are all short clips from Olympic National Park. So as you look, write down some words that you feel, that you see, that you think about. So I hope your word cloud has some words in it. And here's the fun part of this. We want you to take those words and create some type of poem that we can give to Ranger Dean to share with other Rangers. Now, that'll be nice, and you're doing that for the reason of just giving things away, but we're going to choose 3 of those poems that really speak to us, and those 3 kids are going to win a copy of this book called What's in Your Pocket. So if you were to create your poem and give it to your teacher, then your teacher can share those with us. We will share all of those with Ranger Dean, but 3 of those we're going to do a drawing, and this is the book that you're going to get. And I will tell you now that it's a fabulous book about scientists and what they did when they were young. So I think that's going to be pretty fun for us. There are a couple things we're going to talk about real quickly, and then you're going to share. One is, you know that the challenge for today talks about the Elwha Dam and how this dam was created back in the day. And the salmon were not doing well with the dam up. So we know that we have dams all over the country. We have the Fontana Dam, which is in the Tennessee Valley Authority area. We have the Hoover Dam, which is in Arizona and Nevada. And then this is a picture of the Elwha Dam. So this was back in the early 1900s. This was the dam that was created to dam up the river for the use that they needed it then. And then that's where we found out we're having a problem. The salmon were not able to get back and forth, and their lifespan was cut short. So this is what it looks like after the dam has been torn down. The rivers, the waterways, the 12 watersheds that Ranger Dean talked about are now able to flow a little bit more freely. So our STEM challenge is, we're going to ask you for ideas on how to protect wildlife in our areas that we live in, that live in watersheds, rivers, lakes, ponds, oceans. So we're specifically thinking about Olympic National Park and how they have restored that area so that the salmon can now freely move back and forth. There's a word for that. Ranger Dean, can you unmute for a minute and tell me that long word where they live in both sea, salt and fresh water?
Yeah, so that is called anadromous fish. Those are fish that anadromous. Those are fish that live in fresh water as juvenile or hatch and as juveniles. Then they migrate out to the sea where they mature, become adults, and then when they're big, they swim back into the streams and lay their eggs, and that starts the cycle all over again.
Perfect. And the removal of that dam has been able to help that process happen. So teachers, we're now going to ask if there's anyone in your classrooms that have some ideas about how we're going to keep waterways clean and moving and protecting the animals that live in these waterways. So as normal, Miss Simmerman and I are going to sort of look. Miss Mucha, we'll miss you. Thank you for coming. I just saw your message. We're going to ask that you either click on the little hand up sign on Zoom or just keep your hands up, and we'll go to each classroom and we'll take one person and then we'll try to come back. So Miss Mucha's class, before you leave, why don't you go ahead and unmute?
Can you hear us okay?
We can. So bring someone up.
Yep, they're coming. All right, cool. How do you lead the way? Here, come closer. Okay.
Fish ladders, they go like next to dams, but then we were thinking of like trying to make them with like natural resources like wood and rock instead of using like things that could damage them.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And what did you call the name of your idea again? Was it a fish ladder? Miss Mucha, we're having a hard time hearing. Can they get right up to... Okay. All right. I think I heard that time. Thank you for sharing that. Miss Kastner's class, I see your hand up. We'll let you have one person share. Ranger Dean is taking notes because this is going to help his job.
My name is Bryce, and my idea was to like have a tunnel like that has holes that only the fish can fit through, and then they swim through and the tunnel, and they come out on the top of the waterfall so they can keep going on their journey. And then in the middle, there's also like a water filter to keep the water clean.
That not only protects them from the water sources, but also from prey and predators. So thanks for sharing that. Miss Russian's class, I see your hand up. If you would like to share, and we'll let you unmute.
Can you just tell her your name?
I'm Candace, and I made this thing where like there's a hole for bottles and like holes for smaller trash, and like it sucks the trash in through there.
I like that. Now, do you live near a water source, a river or a lake?
No.
Yourself? No? Okay. So you're really thinking outside the box here. You're trying to help Ranger Dean and the Olympic National Park with their idea. So thank you for sharing that. And I love that you have a drawing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Miss Lepore's class?
Dacia,
Yes.
Liza from Mr. Krause's class says in the chat, we could place filters along the side of the streams to keep the trash out and keep the water good for the fish. So
What a great idea. I like that. And Miss Mucha's class is saying that they've had similar ideas in their classroom too, which is nice to know that we're all have these great ideas together. Miss Lepore's class, if you can unmute and have someone come up to the screen.
What? I'm too tall for this.
Oh, she's too tall. No, she's not, because I can do that.
Okay.
All right, just kidding. Hi, Dr. Drizzle. This is Zoe. Zoe, you want to share your idea?
Yeah. I thought of like making like kind of like a robot that's just like in the water like at all times and just like is constantly like filtering the water. And like there's a whole bunch of parts to it. And I used to have the picture, but I forgot where I put it because I had made it like I think I made it like last year.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like a robot that's like made out of like a whole bunch of squares. And so like if you put it together, it's just like one really big square. And so there's like a main screen that like you can see what the robot's doing in the water, and there is a controller that goes with the robot.
Thank you. I like the idea of using technology to try to solve this problem. Miss Warner's class, I see the hand up on your screen. If you would like to unmute and your person can share.
Yeah, go ahead and tell me your name. Tell me your name.
Oh my gosh.
The rest of you need to be quiet.
My name is Kendall, and I thought we could like use a machine to connect our like the cold water that we drink to like the lake at the national park. Like
See if you
it
can-
in the picture, and it would be like we could have like an on and off button, like to prevent problems and stuff.
So that looks like an idea that probably could be used at more than one park. So I think that would be a great idea too. I don't see any more little graphic hands up on the side, but if there are any other classes that would like to share, if you'll just raise a real hand in front of the screen, we will ask you. Mr. Krause, I think I see somebody with a hand up. I'm not sure. If you want to unmute, you're welcome to.
She is on her way. We have a really bad delay. That's why I texted the other one. So hopefully this will work. Go ahead
Okay.
and tell them who you are.
My name is Aya.
And what is your idea? Go ahead. Step up.
My idea is to make these water dogs that put the shot other predators of the salmon to make sure they don't get eaten, and then they put them in a safer place.
I love that. Sort of like little watchdogs or guard dogs. I love that idea. Thank you for sharing. That's very unique. I haven't heard that one before. Thanks for sharing. Miss Hall's class, I see your hand up, and then we're going to go to Miss Eisner's class.
Okay. Can you see Logan talk?
My name is Logan, and I had this idea that the scientists could go through a tunnel and count all the fish without hurting them.
Okay, so they would be protected. So the scientists would be protected through the tunnel, and then they would see and count there.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing that. Hello. Miss Eisner's class, it's good to see you again. I was with you last week, so go ahead and unmute and share your idea.
Your name? My name is Ashby. I would say there's this robot that has a stick. You know, the sticks with you put with the pool that takes out leaves. So whenever the water gets dirty, you can pull out the leaves. And then on the other hand, they can have chlorine. So in case the water gets too dirty, they can put the chlorine in.
Okay, so again, technology, thinking about using technology because it would be an easier ask than putting people in there to do that. I love it. Miss Bridger's class, and then Miss Jordan, and I apologize for maybe not saying that the correct way, but Miss Bridgers first. You can unmute.
I am Blake, and I don't know if this is on point, but I had this idea where we could build this like cement wall in a bunch of rivers for like with like holes in it for the water to pass through, and the trash hits the wall so it doesn't go through.
So I think that is very on point. I want you always to consider that your ideas are always valid, and then we test those out. So I think that's a good thing to think about. And we would probably send that to some of the engineers in Olympic National Park to think if that would work. So thanks for sharing that. And Miss Jordan class, if you want to unmute.
I think you could like have a water filter like in the water, and there's a compartment that collects trash like when it floats up to the surface. Like you could open the door up and like grab all the trash in there and move it to a garbage disposal.
Okay. I like that too. This is really exciting that we're hearing these ideas from our kids, because we always talk about how as adults, sometimes we don't have the best ideas, or we don't want to try something because we remembered it did not work before. So we're going to ask you, I wish we could get everybody's ideas in, but we're going to run out of time here. I'm going to ask you that you teachers, that if you will, if you can allow your students to share their ideas on our flip. So Miss Zimmerman, if you can grab that flip ID there and stick it in the chat window. So teachers, what you'll do is you'll just click on this, and then your kids can pop up, and we have it set for about a 2-minute video, and they can share all of their ideas. They can hold up their photos, or they can hold up their prototypes or their drawings and share. And then Ranger Dean also has access to this, and he's going to be able to go in and look at all of these ideas. And Miss Zimmerman, I think we just had someone drop an idea in. Do you see that?
Kyla suggests a sensor to detect trash in the river, and then a net is thrown out to collect it.
Very nice. So Ranger Dean, will you come back on camera for just a minute or two, and just let's hear what you think about this. How are you feeling about some of these ideas?
Oh, I love these ideas. I wanted to share something because a lot of these ideas are really fantastic. I wanted to share, as I was hearing some of these ideas, I thought of some solutions that people are trying already that you've already come up with. So here's a device that goes in a river. Oh, let me see. I shared the wrong. Can you see that device that's in the river? It's
Yes.
orange. Yeah.
Yes.
So this is like, a lot of people were worried about the trash in the river, right? And so this is a device that can be in the river, and it just operates. There's a person sitting in it, but I don't think a person needs to be in there, but it takes the trash out of the river. So that helps to keep the water clean. So I was thinking like, hey, you guys have already, you've come up with these ideas, and here it is a little bit, but you already can see it. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing right now so you can come back on here. So fish scientists talk about the 5 C's for salmon, and I started typing these in, but I'll just go over it right here. The 5 C's for salmon, and your ideas, we're focusing on some of those 5 C's. One of the C's, so 5 and then C's, right? So we'll use the ASL, American Sign Language, C, the 5 C's. The first C is clean water. So that's a water that's free from pollutants like litter and chemicals. The other C is for clear water. And so that's water that the fish can see in. So clear water, that'd be things like dirt and silt coming from the land and into the rivers. The third C is connected rivers. So things that block the salmon and the fish from swimming from one place to another, those are issues. And so when we think about trying to design a solution to help with one of the other C's, we don't want to introduce a problem in the other C's like connected. The other one is complex, and that means rivers that have lots of different kinds of habitat within the watershed. So salmon, we used to take out log jams where trees would fall in the river and then pile up. We thought that was bad for salmon, but we actually found out that that is actually good. It provides places for salmon to rest and to hide, so complex. And then the final C is cool. And I heard somebody talking about making sure that the water was cold or cool. Salmon like cold water, so we got to make sure those are the 5 C's. So I heard a lot of your ideas were falling into those different C categories, a lot with the clean water and keeping the litter and stuff out. And I think maybe some of the best ways we can keep litter out of the rivers is to make sure that we put things in the trash can and we recycle when we can, and if that's available to us, so that it doesn't have a chance to get into the river in the first place. So those are the 5 C's. And so a lot of those ideas about helping the salmon connected with one of those C's. So that was awesome thinking, I think.
I think so too. And I think that that happens when we bring a diverse group of kids together that have great ideas. And so we got a lot. So a couple things to remind you of. First of all, don't forget this poem that we want you to use on words that you saw or thought about, or maybe you even do some research on that you thought about when you saw Olympic National Park or when you think of Olympic National Park. You'll write this poem. It can be a poem that rhymes. It can be a poem that doesn't rhyme. It could be a haiku or a cinquain, whatever you want to write. And if your teacher sends those to us, then 3 of you are going to win a copy of this book for your own household. We also want to encourage you, if you haven't already seen some of our events this year, that you can find those at expeditionsandeducation.org/4th grade. So a special thanks to Ranger Dean and the Olympic National Park staff, also to the National Park Foundation. We also want to thank our teachers online that have been doing this for the last couple years, and our brand new ones that have joined us today. We are very excited to have you here, and we hope that you continue to keep saving the world. So if everybody can give a big old wave here, that'd be wonderful so we can see everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I'm grabbing a screenshot there because you look so amazing. Thank you so much, and we will talk to you next time, February 21st. We'll give you the time, but we're going to be live from Voyageurs National Park. Dr. Drizzle and Mr. Drizzle are going to be on the ice fishing with you at Voyageurs National Park on February 21st. So have a great day, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you, Ranger Dean. You did a great job. Thank you, kids. Good to see you. Thanks, Miss Zimmerman, for handling all things chat. Thank you, Mr. Krause. It's always good to see you.